Hello everyone, welcome to the Django tutorial series. In this tutorial step, we're going to protect our endpoints by integrating Jwt, also known as JSON Web Token. According to Wikipedia, Jwt is an internet proposed standard for creating data with optional signature and/or optional encryption whose payload holds JSON that asserts some number of claims. The tokens are signed either using a private secret or a public-private key. To know more about Jwt, please visit the website shown on your screen. There are lots of Jwt packages available in the PyPI repository. Previously, I used to work with Django REST Framework-Jwt, but currently this project is not being maintained, so I'm going to look for alternative options. As you can see, the project maintainer is suggesting two alternative packages. For our tutorial, we will be using drf simple Jwt. But before moving forward, I would like to thank all the contributors, collaborators who are involved in the open source community, helping each other by creating these wonderful packages which indirectly make our life easier. I would recommend everyone who is watching this video right now try contributing and share your support in these open source projects. The more you give to the community, the more you're going to get back. So let's begin our installation process. I click on File, Settings, Project, Sample Demo, Python Interpreter. I will click on the plus and paste the copied text, and finally I will click on Install Package. Okay, the installation is successfully done. Let's update our requirements.txt file. Now let us move back to the documentation page and follow the next step. We need to set Jwt Authentication in our default authentication class. I'm going to make it super quick by reusing existing REST framework settings, which I have used in many of my projects. As you can see on my screen, we've added Jwt Authentication in our default authentication classes. The authentication schemes are always defined as a list of classes. The REST framework will attempt to authenticate with each class in the list and will set request.user and request.auth using the return value of the first class that successfully authenticates. If no class authenticates, request.user will be set to an instance of anonymous user, and request.auth will be set to none. There are lots of other classes I've added like pagination, renderer, and parser classes. I don't want to get into more detail because we're not covering those scenarios. But if you are interested to know more about this, please visit the website shown on your screen. Next, I will be copying the Jwt settings and pasting it in our settings.py file. I'm going to use the default settings as provided in the documentation. Next, I'm going to copy the default URL routes provided by the simple Jwt. This will be used to authenticate our user credentials, and in return, it will provide us with access tokens and refresh tokens. The login API will provide you with access and refresh tokens. The access token is only valid for 5 minutes. You can override that in the Jwt settings. Refresh tokens are used to generate new tokens before your access token expires. If expired, then you need to log in again. Token Verify will be used to check whether the token is still valid or not. You're going to play with these APIs when you're trying to integrate with modern front-end applications. We have missed one package installation. Make sure to install Django-filter, as we have included it in the default filter backends in our REST framework settings. This is optional for our project. This is one of the common packages widely used which allows users to declaratively add dynamic query set filtering from URL parameters. Do visit their documentation as shown on your screen if you're interested to know more about Django filters. Let's open Postman and test our API. As we don't have any users in our system, I will create a super user in our account. I go back to PyCharm and then click on Tools, Run Manage.py task. I type Create Super User and press Enter. I'm going to provide a username and password, and we'll skip providing an email address. I'm going to bypass password validation. The password is quite weak, but that's okay for the tutorial, but not recommended when your application is running in production. Okay, our super user has been successfully created. Let's go back to Postman and provide our new generated user credentials. Let me verify the token is valid or not by calling our Token Verify API and passing the access token in the payload. Okay, we've received a 200 response. That means our token is valid. Let me try to tamper with it by adding some extra string. The verification is working fine. Now I will test out the refresh token. Make sure to pass the refresh token which you received in your login API. So finally, we received the access token, which is valid for the next 5 minutes. When it comes to security, make sure the lifetime of your token is comparatively less. Next, I will move to views.py in our organization directory. I remove the permission allow any. Instead of allow any, you can pass is authenticated. But I'm not going to do that because it's already mentioned in our default permission classes. Make sure to add it at the top because order matters. Otherwise, you can directly mention in your APIs like what we did before. That's a much better approach instead of relying on the defaults. Let's now move back again to Postman and test our APIs. Yes, our routes are protected. As you can see, it has raised an unauthorized response. Authentication credentials were not provided. Now I'm going to pass the access token in the authorization header. The value should be bearer followed by the access token. Yes, finally, our API routes are now protected and they're not going to work until you provide a valid token. Try playing around with it. In the upcoming video, I will show you how to integrate monitoring tools into the project, which is required when your application is running in test, staging, or production servers to receive real-time errors.